Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to spin up a Kubernetes cluster locally using Docker Desktop. Whether you are learning Kubernetes or testing your microservices, this is a super convenient way to get started with Kubernetes without needing a full cloud setup. So, I think you already know about what is Kubernetes. If you are not familiar with Kubernetes, then I would recommend you to get to know about the Kubernetes before trying this one. So before we start, let's take a look at what we need for this demo. So first of all, you should have Docker Desktop installed on your machine. So make sure you will go to Docker Desktop official site and download the Docker Desktop for your operating system. That can be Mac, Windows or Linux. So you can download it and install it. And for your laptop or your computer, you should have at least 4 GB of RAM is recommended. Yeah, but if you have more, that is more suitable, right? And as I mentioned previously, you should have some basic knowledge about Docker and Kubernetes concepts. So those will help you when you're working with Kubernetes and Docker and setting this up. But we are not going in deep dive into Kubernetes concepts or Docker concepts, but it is good to know those concepts. And we have to make sure that your Docker Desktop is running before we enable Kubernetes in your Docker. Okay, now let's take a look at how we can do it, right? So basically, when you install Docker Desktop into your local computer, the Docker Desktop comes with the Kubernetes enabling Kubernetes feature, but by default this is disabled, right? Disabled means it is not running. So if you wish to create your own development Kubernetes cluster, then you can enable the Kubernetes cluster option, and then you can use it for your development purpose. Okay, so as you can see here, I already have installed with Docker in my local environment. So I hope you also already installed before this demo started. So to enable Docker Kubernetes in Docker Desktop, first you need to go to this settings gear icon on your top right. So this gear icon will show you all the settings for your Docker Desktop. Then you can see a separate section called Kubernetes in the Docker Desktop. What you have to do is you need to click the Kubernetes section. Then you can see that at the moment Kubernetes is disabled, right? So we can enable it if you want to create a cluster. So for this demo, I will enable the Kubernetes option. Then in the bottom you can see that start a Kubernetes single or multi-node cluster when starting Docker Desktop. That means if you enable this option under the Kubernetes, then when you start the Docker Desktop, it will start a Kubernetes cluster, as well as in the background it is starting the Kubernetes cluster as well. Okay, then under the cluster settings you have two options. One is using Kubeadm and kind. Okay, in the Docker Desktop, Kubeadm actually it is not supporting multi nodes, right? But if you want to create a one single node Kubernetes cluster with Kubeadm, then you can select the Kubeadm option, and keep in mind this Kubeadm option in Kubernetes for Docker desktop is on the single node cluster, and it is ideal for your testing and development purpose. So first I will show you enabling with Kubeadm. So I will enable the Kubeadm here. Then basically you need to click the apply. Then Docker will ask to confirm the installation, because it will take a few minutes, because it needs to install the download the required images and all the other components as well. So be patient a little bit until the installation is completed. So I will click install. Then in here you can see under the clusters, it's a Docker desktop, and it is Kubeadm one node cluster with the Kubernetes latest version 1.32.2. So you can see that starting, then it is pulling images, so required images for this cluster. So I will come back after the cluster is started. Okay, now we are back. So you can see that in the clusters, the Docker desktop cluster is already started, and started 2 minutes ago. So that means now the cluster is up and running. So now we can play around with the cluster. So I will open a terminal here in the Docker desktop. Then you can see that because I am using items, I am using ZSH and some extensions. Because of that, it will show you the existing Kubernetes cluster and the version here, right? So but you can verify it by running kubectl get nodes, right? For some reason the wrong command, kubectl get nodes, right? So when you're running a kubectl get nodes, you can see the node name and the status and the role and the version. So you can see it is a one node cluster, and it is running control plane components, and you can see the information as here. So you can see the kubectl command. So yeah, basically you can see all the kubectl get ports, but I don't have any port, right? So what you can do is run. K is a short alias for kubectl, so I have an alias for that, so that's why I use the K, right? So I will run a pod with nginx, right? So you can see the pod is created, so we'll get the pods, right? Yeah, still creating. Okay, so here you can see it's very interesting. So you can see that when I'm running a pod, you can see that pod is running as a container in the Docker desktop. Yeah, basically it is a container in the background even we run the pod in the Kubernetes. So yeah, so you can see that container in here. So yeah, so if I want to get some information, describe the pod, right? So I can do it as well. So you can see all the information about the pod, right? Okay, now next I will show you how to use the kind as a Kubernetes cluster creation in the Docker desktop. So if you want to disable the Kubernetes in the Docker desktop, you can go to the same place, like under the settings and Kubernetes, then toggle back to disable the enable Kubernetes, then click apply. Then it will stop in the existing Kubeadm cluster and removing it from the Docker desktop. So now I have stopped it, right? So you can see it's very fast. So you can see immediately the cluster is gone. Okay, next I will show you how we can enable the Kubernetes cluster in Docker desktop by using kind cluster, right? So similarly, you have to use the similar mechanism, right? So if you go to the Docker desktop home page, go to the settings, then under the Kubernetes, click enable Kubernetes. But in the cluster settings, you have to select kind cluster. Then you can, in the kind cluster, you can specify different type of the version of Kubernetes that you need to run in the kind cluster. So but in the Kubeadm, you can see it's a fixed version, right? In the kind, you have the default version as it 131, but now Kubernetes is running 134. That means the latest Kubernetes version is 134 at the moment I'm recording this one. So yeah, you can select whatever the version that you like. For example, I will run this cluster is 134, so you can check any features in 134 in a specific version. So that is really helpful for you to test some Kubernetes features. Then here under the nodes, you can specify how many nodes do you need. So you can go from 1 node to 2 nodes, like 3 nodes, and you can go up to maximum of 10 nodes, right? So for this purpose, for this demo, I will use 3 node cluster, right? Then in here, there's an option called show system containers advanced. So if you enable this option in the cluster settings, you can see the system containers like kube proxy, then the kube control plane, then API servers, and all the other Kubernetes components that are running in the clusters. But if you don't want to play around those things, then you can leave this option as unticked, so you will not see those pods at all, right? But for this demo, I will show you what are the system pods. So therefore I will enable the show system containers. Then I will click apply, same as before. You will ask to confirm the installation, so I will click install. Then on top you can see under clusters, the cluster name is Docker desktop. Then you can see it's kind cluster with 3 nodes and running the 1.34 version. So in the right side, you can see the cluster starting, and it will show you some additional information about the nodes images that are downloading for the kind cluster. So we will wait until the kind cluster is created and set up. So after that I will come back. Okay, now the cluster is set up and started, and it's running. So you can see in the right hand side the cluster status is running, and you can see how long it is running for. Okay, now we have enabled the kind cluster in Docker desktop. So let's do a similar thing that we did before. I will open a terminal, right? Okay, before I do anything, I will show you something that happens in the Kubernetes desktop, because we use a kind cluster. Kind means Kubernetes in Docker. So basically it is running nodes those Kubernetes nodes are running as a Docker container. So that's why you can see these Docker workers, Kubernetes control plane, and other containers. So, and we enable to show the Kubernetes worker node pods, the pods. So because of that, we can see the pods here. We can see the containers here, not pods. Okay, now similar, we'll go and see whether we can get the nodes. So get nodes, kubectl nodes. Okay, now you can see that there are multiple nodes. In previous we have only one node, but here you can see you have control plane and as well as two worker plane nodes as well. So now I will run a container, right? So now the pod is created in the cluster. So I will check whether the pod is running. Still the pod is in a creating state. Now you can see the pod is running state as well as we did previously. We can describe the pod, then you can see all the information in the pod as well. Okay, so that's the very basic setup of Kubernetes in Docker, right? So now if you want to disable the kind cluster, you can do as before. So you can go to settings, then in Kubernetes section, just untick the enable Kubernetes, then click apply, then it will stop and delete the kind cluster as well. So you can see immediately it was disappeared, the kind cluster is disappeared, and in the containers also you don't see any containers at all because everything is deleted when you disable the Kubernetes in Docker desktop. Okay, so that's all for this demo. So I think in my perspective, and I think Docker desktop Kubernetes is a very useful for you to play around with Kubernetes and do your development workflows and try out your applications in local development environment in your own workstation. So yeah, I invite you guys to try out the Docker desktop Kubernetes, and I think I hope this video is informative for you. So if you think this is useful, please hit a like button and subscribe to my channel, so that would help for me to create more content like this. So until next time, I wish you all the best and we will see you soon. Thank you.